Hey Terras, I'm Teresa.
And I'm Rachel.
And you're listening to Terra Australis. This episode is a local case. It's actually based in Adelaide. And for those...
How do I not know anything about this case?
Did you really not know that?
I mean, I probably did somewhere in the recess of my mind. Like, I know...
Somerton Beach is kind of like around the Glenelg area.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's why he's named Somerton Man?
Yes. Because he was found on Somerton Beach.
Oh. I thought they identified him and it was someone Somerton.
No.
Wow, I really know nothing.
Okay, this is a mystery case. A case that has been left unsolved for the last 70 plus years. So this was back in the 1940s that this happened.
That's going to be fun.
No, it'll be like close to 80 years then.
I love cases in like the 40s and 50s because I just love watching how police work. If
the
they
police
do.
actually, they did. I won't lie, they did a pretty. They
time?
tried.
For the
they
time?
They actually really tried.
I mean, but they also didn't have access to like anything.
No, they didn't.
So
but,
like, good for them then.
Yeah, like when they couldn't source any more sources within the region where they found the body, they actually spread out to the rest of Australia.
Oh!
Yeah.
Good on them.
They actually tried.
They weren't twisting thetheir handlebar mustaches and going, pride. You know, like, no? That wasn't it. Puffing their chest out like a fucking rooster.
Didn't... I believe that they did a pretty good job.
That's good. I'm glad.
So, this is about the Somerton Man. And for anyone who doesn't know who this man is, this is a man who was found unidentified on the beach one morning, and police have yet to identify him.
Do you know what? I know a few things from this case, because like everybody in Australia knows this case, but unless you actually fully research it, you don't know all the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
I have listened to podcast episodes about this and stuff like that, but none even remotely recently.
Right.
And I have the mental capacity of a French fry, so we should be fine.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to put a trigger warning here, and I will put some throughout as well. It's not a violent case, because it just isn't. It isn't about really the murder. It's about identifying the man in this case. But there are some mentions of possible suicide. So if anyone is a bit sensitive about the topic or the mentioning of suicide, I would recommend not listening to this case because I will be bringing it up here and there. Otherwise, sit tight. This is a very interesting case and it is very long. I do believe we're going to have this in 2 parts.
Cool.
We got
like a specific part where you're going to...
I don't know.
Decapitate it?
Fuck, Rachel. I actually have no idea. Just depends how much we ramble. Because we've been in a really rambly mood today.
Okay, so
with
guys,
all of these
fun fact, I have an autoimmune disease and I'm on a new medication for 3 months. So the next 3 months worth of episodes for you guys, I'm going to be a bit psycho.
The medication kind of gives her ADHD like side effects.
It's I'm not going to say that it's like that because I have no idea what that's like.
I feel like it's more amusing though in terms of like the podcast.
It is more amusing.
It's sitting here, these episodes I believe are our best
The
so
best
far.
way I can describe it is I'm scatterbrained. Like my brain is everywhere and like nowhere at the same time. I'm punchy, which is not great for a true crime podcast, but you know.
It's funny, okay? It's fucking funny.
Oh, it has to be something.
Anyway, this was based, again, in Adelaide, South Australia on November 30th, 1948. So this is right after the war. Like, everyone's, like, coming back, you know, the whole shebang. John Bain Lyons and his wife went on a 7 o'clock morning stroll along Somerton Beach. As they were headed towards Glenelg, they noticed a smartly dressed man laying in the sand with his head propped up against a seawall about 20 metres away from them. With legs stretched out and feet crossed, the couple watched as the man lifted up his right arm and then let it fall back down again, as with what appeared to Lyons to be a drunken attempt to smoke a cigarette. Yeah.
I'm sorry, was he alive at this stage?
Yes. Half an hour later, on the couple's way back from their walk, they noticed that the same man was still lying there in the exact same position. The wife noted again about how immaculately dressed this man was, with in a suit, newly polished shoes,
which
was
time is
for the place. They were sitting on a beach.
We'd also just come back from war. It's not like we'd had... Like, it's not like everybody had access to that sort of...
attire.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was, November, so it's starting to get warmer as well. So he's sitting out there on the beach in a suit.
I'm sorry, it's September, and I'm already, wearing shorts.
I'm sitting here in my hoodie.
I mean, not right now.
But
I wore them once this week.
Tomorrow's meant to be 13 degrees.
That's okay, because I'm inside all day, so it's fine.
I have to drive home.
Do you have a heater?
No! Oh, in my car, yeah. I thought you meant at home. No. My house is an igloo. We've been through this.
You thrive in the cold.
Yeah,
Every time, there's 2 blankets on this bed, and I bet you won't use them.
No, I'll sleep in the hoodie and I'll be fine with that.
I can't fucking believe you.
I'm actually kind of warm right now.
I cannot believe you.
Anyway. Half an hour later, the wife noted again about his clothes and all that, which was very odd attire for the beach. He was motionless with his left arm splayed out on the sand. The couple just assumed that the man was asleep, and his face was surrounded by mosquitoes. Lyons even made a joke saying, quote, "He must be dead to the world to not notice them," end quote. It wasn't
Bugs always are the first thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
It wasn't until the next morning, when the same man was still laying on the beach without having moved a muscle, that when Lyons saying dead to the world was leaning more towards truth rather than just a joke. Coming back from a swim in the ocean, he noticed a crowd of people gathered at the seawall. Walking over, he noticed a familiar figure still slumped over against the seawall with his
I'm sorry, this
feet
was the same
still
guy
crossed.
that came back and still saw the same...
Yeah. Again, thought he was drunk.
Shit.
There weren't any obvious marks on the body to show any signs of violence, and there was a half-smoked cigarette laying on the man's collar as if it had fallen out of his mouth, mid-puff. The man's body reached the Royal Adelaide Hospital 3 hours later, where Dr. John Barclay Bennett declared that the time of death was to be no earlier than 2 a.m. It also was noted that the most likely cause of death was either heart failure or poisoning. The contents of the man's pockets were spread out across a table. Tickets from Adelaide to the beach, a pack of chewing gum, some matches, 2 combs, and a pack of Army Club cigarettes containing 7 cigarettes from a completely different brand. And these were Kensitas?
I have no idea. I don't think that's a brand anymore.
Kensitas.
That's not a brand in Australia
They're significantly more expensive than the Army Club cigarettes.
But it was the Army Club packet?
Yes.
I mean, to me, that doesn't seem super weird. Because I know that for a fact that my stepdad will have multiple packs and he'll take more out of one and then put it into his pocket. It's to me, it's weird, but people do it.
Okay. There was no wallet, no cash, no ID. None of his clothes bore any name tags, which wasn't actually too out of the ordinary back then, because again, it was during the Cold War. So new clothes were a very rare thing almost. So clothes were constantly being passed around pretty much. Mm-hmm. And tags would be cut off. So him not having any tags wasn't really that big of a what the fuck.
Oh, that wasn't weird?
Not really.
Because I know that
because like if you're given clothes by someone and they have their name written on the tag, you don't want those clothes to go back to that person or someone with a similar name.
That's why I was gonna say, because I know that when I've listened to this case before, there was like a theory that the cat tags were cut off because they had his name on it, and people didn't want, like, whoever did this didn't want his name to be known.
See, because the first time I listened to this case was through a podcast, and they mentioned how it wasn't actually that out of the ordinary.
Ah, okay.
So,
see, the one that I listened to, that podcast isn't even around anymore, and it's really sad. I wish that they were, but yeah, they were saying, you know, like, because they would go into like theories about cases, and their sort of theory was that maybe the tags had been cut off because they did have his name written on them.
That could be a possibility.
And maybe that would be an identifier, and this person didn't want him to be identified.
Who knows?
Or something.
No one knows who this man is, so.
Still?
Yeah.
Still? I thought that was like a...
No, I've been saying this case is still unsolved 70 plus years later. It's still open.
Oh, I hate that. I hate unsolved things.
Yeah. No, but I love it. I love like
so
the conspiracy behind it. Sorry, catching up to the part where I was at. And one of his trouser pockets had been neatly repaired with an orange thread. Yeah. When a full autopsy was carried out the following day, the post-mortem did little to shed new light on the situation, and police had already exhausted all of their main leads to the man's identity.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
With the autopsy, was there a tox screen done?
Oh,
like,
what?
did they said that his cause of death could have been like heart attack or poisoning. Did they do a tox screen, like a toxicity screen, to show whether he was poisoned?
We'll get into that.
Okay.
What was found was that the man's pupils were smaller than normal, and a dribble of spit had run down the man's mouth as he laid on the autopsy table.
Oh.
This was ruled off as he was probably unable to swallow it when he died. His spleen was described as strikingly large and firm, about 3 times the normal size, and the liver was filled to the point of being swollen with congested blood.
What the fuck is going on?
Do you see why this case intrigues me?
If you don't tell me that one of the theories is aliens, I'm going to be very disappointed.
It's not.
Fuck's sakes.
I mean, there's probably someone out there.
Oh, for sure. It's always a theory of aliens.
I don't think so.
No, neither do I, but
there are more believable conspiracies that we'll get into.
But every single time there's anything that's like unexplained, people are like, look, I don't know,
aliens.
But aliens. Like, that's it.
Pathologist John Dwyer, I think, found the remains of his last meal, a pasty, along with more blood, which further suggested that the man had died of poisoning, though there was no indication that the pasty itself had been poisoned. Right. If the man was poisoned, it would explain his behaviour on the beach. Slumped against the wall in a suit, raising and dropping his right arm seemed less like drunkenness and more like the effects of a slow-working lethal dose.
Mm-hmm.
But even so, repeated tests done by expert chemists found no trace of any poison in the blood or in any of the organs, meaning that a cause of death was yet to be found.
Oh, maybe his spleen was literally about to fucking explode. That might do it.
On top of these, there were some other... Your fingers are fucking cold!
Sorry.
Don't touch my feet!
I moved before and my ankle like popped and it hurt.
On top of these, there were other peculiarities found about the man. He had extremely high and very well developed calf muscles, although in his late 40s.
Did you say extremely high? As in like they sat high?
No, like they were like thick. Like he had like some thick ass
like,
calf muscles.
They were like extremely pronounced and all that. Like, but
yeah.
like high.
Like
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. She's just motioning to me.
Yeah.
But like, I actually thought you just meant they were higher up on his leg, and I was very confused.
Jesus Christ.
It's a weird case. I don't know.
And although in his late 40s, he had the legs of an athlete.
Oh.
Meanwhile, his toes were oddly wedge-shaped, as if he had a habit of wearing heeled and pointed shoes. His foot shape, however, can also be found along ballet dancers, which strikes up the question of whether the deceased man happened to be a ballet dancer.
Well, that would explain the calf muscles too.
And it would explain the toes.
Yeah, it would explain all of his physical attributes, yeah.
Yes. All of these physical factors left the coroner, Thomas Cleland, extremely puzzled. The only practical solution was given to him by a professor called Sir Cedric Stanton Hicks. The professor informed Cleland that it was a very rare poison that had been used, one that had the ability to decompose very early after death, leaving no trace. The only poisons capable of doing this were so dangerous and deadly that Professor Hicks refused to say their names out loud in court and instead handed Cleland a piece of scrap paper with the poisons' names written on it.
Mm.
These poisons were digitalis and stropophene. I'm sorry.
Nothing that anybody of us have access to.
No. Actually, we'll get into that.
Okay.
With Professor Hicks leaning towards the latter. So he thought it was a stropophene.
Stropophene.
Strophanthithin.
Can I see it?
Yeah. That one.
Strophanthin? Strophanthin?
Strophanthin?
Because the PH. Strophanthin?
Yeah, I don't know. Strophanthin, we'll go with that, is a rare glycoside. Did I say that word right?
I can't see your notes. It should, so yeah.
Glycoside, yeah. Derived from the seeds of some African plants and was historically used by a small and not well-known Somali tribe in their poisoned arrows.
Ooh, alrighty.
Yeah. With more questions now than ever, police continued their investigation. The man's fingerprints were taken and circulated throughout both Australia and the English-speaking world, but no one could identify them.
I'm sorry, did you say like all of the English-speaking world?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this case has been unsolved for 70 plus years.
No, this was still within the first few months.
But everybody would be trying to... Well, because it's puzzling. Like, everybody wants to solve it.
Like, no one knows the cause of death. No one knows an identity. No one has any leads.
And
nothing.
they went throughout the entire English-speaking...
Yeah, so, like, England, America, like, Europe. Yeah.
My God.
Yep.
I wonder if he did speak English. Or if they could determine his exact ethnicity now.
No idea.
But say they traced his...
The dude's buried now.
I was going to say, but like, say they traced his genetic... Because I don't know that they could have done this then, but, you know, like Ancestry.com sort of thing. Like, trace his ancestry, found out exactly where he was from, and that narrowed down the search.
Maybe.
But obviously they didn't
But at the
have
same time,
access
his
to
body is decomposed for like 70 years, so...
Yeah. But
there's
that would
little
be...
bit I can do now.
I wonder if they would have taken samples during autopsy.
We'll get into it.
Hmm.
Just let me get into it.
So interesting.
People from all over Australia were taken to the mortuary in hopes that someone could identify the corpse. Some claimed to have known the man from photos published in the newspapers, and others were distraught relatives of missing people.
Mm.
However, the body continued to remain unnamed and unidentified.
Meanwhile, they're just keeping his body in the morgue just because he's unidentified.
Yep.
My God.
By January 11th, so this is about 3 months since they found the body, the South Australian police had investigated and dismissed close to all of their leads. The case was widened in an attempt to locate any abandoned luggage or personal belongings to the man, suggesting that he had come from out of state. The police checked every hotel, dry cleaner, lost property office and railway station within proximity to where the man was originally found. On the 12th, detectives who were checking out Australia's main railway station were guided to a brown suitcase that had been deposited in the cloakroom on the 30th of November, the last day the man was known to be alive.
Oh. I have chills. This is like freaking me out.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
I only remember like very minimal from this case. So like this is exciting.
Yeah, it is a very exciting case. So something that's awesome about this case is that there are photos online of all the evidence. So there's photos of the suitcase, and we will have this all on the Instagram. I highly recommend go check it out because this case intrigues me. Staff couldn't recall anything about the owner of the suitcase, and the contents of the suitcase itself didn't reveal much either. The suitcase held a reel of orange thread, the same used to patch the man's trouser pocket, a stencil kit typically used by the third officer on merchant ships responsible for the stenciling of cargo, a table knife, and a handle with the handle cut down, and a coat stitched using a feather stitching unknown in Australia. The stitching was identified by a tailor to have been of American origin, suggesting that perhaps the coat itself or the owner travelled during the war, but searches of shipping and immigration records from across the country produced no likely leads. That cat.
Should I let him in? He's going to be scratching at the door.
No, just leave him. He'll be all over us.
He will.
Yeah. The suitcase itself was stripped clean of any identifiable features. No stickers or markings, and the label had been torn off from one side. All but 3 items of clothing from inside the case had the labels removed, much like the ones on the deceased man's suit. These labels bore the name Keen or T-Keane. So one is spelled K-E-A-N, and the other one is spelled K-E-A-N-E.
Keen, I guess.
Keen and Keeny.
I think it would still be Keen, because I would still pronounce Keen with an E in the end.
But still,
it's
slightly different spelling still.
It's interesting that they're spelled differently.
Yeah, because if that's your actual last name,
why would you spell it differently?
Why would you misspell your own name?
I feel like
especially it's like an E at the end of your name. So like even if you had like forgotten to put your E in, you can go back in and add the E. It's not like for like my last name if I forgot like the L. Like anyway. But both were deemed impossible to trace. Police concluded with the suggestion from an Adelaide newspaper that someone, quote, had purposefully left them on, knowing that the dead man's name was not Keen or Keeny.
That's what I was going to say, that's what the reason...
It was probably there to throw them off.
I was literally going to say that would be the only possible explanation to me, that they spelt it weird. Like, they just made a name and then, like, forgot to put the E on it because that's not their name.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only possible explanation
I can think of. But at the same time, we'll go into it. I'll go into it later with the theories because I fucking love the theories part of this case. Police brought in another expert, John Cleland, not the same as Thomas Cleland. So Thomas Cleland is the guy from before. They just had the same last name. Professor of pathology at the University of Adelaide, to re-examine both the corpse and the man's possessions. 4 months after the discovery of the man's body, this is in April. Is that right? Yeah, no, we'll just go with it. It doesn't matter. Thomas's examination produced one final piece of evidence, one that would appear more baffling than any other. Cleland discovered a small pocket sewn in the waistband of the man's trousers that other examinators had missed. Several accounts of the case have referred to it as a secret pocket, but it seems to be intended to hold a fob watch or pocket watch. And inside the pocket was a tightly screwed up scrap of paper. The paper held 2 words on it in elaborate printed script, which read Tamam Shud, with its English translation meaning, "It is ended." A police reporter for the Adelaide Advertiser, Frank Kennedy, recognised the words as Persian. He phoned the he phoned the words. He phoned the police and suggested that they obtain a copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Poetry. It's a poetry book. It was very popular. The English translation done by Edward Fitzgerald of this book became widely popular across Australia during the war. This book existed in numerous different editions, but libraries, publishers, and bookshops were unable to find an edition that matched this type of font used. Again, you can find this on Instagram, like the little note that was
type of font. So it was
a very peculiar font,
but it wasn't handwritten.
No, it was like printed.
It was like part of a page.
Yes, like it was.
Like a scrap ripped out of a
book.
Oh, that's so weird.
That's not my laptop. Let me quickly try and...
I can look it up on my phone.
No, it's okay. I've got it. I can just go to the website that I was using through history. Here we go. So that's the font used.
Oh, that's very bizarre.
Yeah. It's very specific.
It is very specific.
So they were trying to find a book that matched this font, like an edition book that matched this font, but they couldn't find it anywhere.
It's nowhere in Australia.
When taking the police into consideration, the death appears more like a suicide. In fact, the South Australian police always kept the case as a missing persons case and never turned it into a full-blown murder investigation.
Because otherwise they would have changed it to homicide. Yeah.
Although this information did give little insight, it still didn't identify the now decomposing man. Arrangements were made for his burial, but worried that they were about to bury the very few key...
That's literally all they've got, aside from his belongings.
Yeah.
If they were his.
Police decided to embalm/preserve the corpse and have a cast taken of the head and upper torso. The body was then buried and sealed under concrete in a plot of dry ground in case a scenario was to ever arise where they needed to exhume the man.
Well, that's very smart.
Yeah. As late as 1978, flowers could be found in odd intervals on the grave, but no one ever knew exactly who left them there and why.
It literally could have been anyone, though. Like, if this has been... Like, it's a publicised case.
Just wait until we get further into the case.
Okay.
In July, only 8 months after the investigation opened, the search for the Persian transcript book finally came back with results. On the 23rd, a Glenelg man walked into the detective office in Adelaide with a copy of the book accompanied with a strange story. Back in December, just after the discovery of the man's body, this man had gone out for a drive with his brother-in-law in a car he had happened to park a few hundred metres from Somerton Beach. The brother-in-law found a copy of the book lying on the floor of the back seats, and each of them just silently assumed that the book belonged to one another, and it was left in the car's glove box compartment ever since.
What?
Yep. Their attention was brought back to the unclaimed book when they came across an article in the newspaper about the search. Upon further inspection, they found that the last page of the book had been torn out of the book. With this, they were able to turn the book into the police.
Well, now they know what the book is, they can find another copy of it and see what page was ripped out.
Well, no, because they know which page was ripped out. They have the page.
Like the specific page aside from the piece of that was torn.
Yeah, so that that's what was torn out.
Because but it was a scrap of that torn out page. Well, or is it the whole page wasn't torn out? It was just that scrap.
No, it was just that might have been the only text on the page, but it was still ripped out. I think that was all that was on it. Okay. Detective Sergeant Lionel Leanne, I think it's Leanne, took a closer look into the book and noticed a phone number penciled on the rear cover, and while using a magnifying glass, he was able to make out the faint impression of some letters written in capitals underneath. The phone number ended up being unlisted, but it proved to belong to a young nurse who lived near Somerton Beach. Like how the two Glenelg men who turn in the missing book, she was never publicly identified. Disappointingly though, the South Australian men, like police of 1949, weren't really respectful of her wanting to stay away from like the public eye, and her name was kind of leaked, and she was known by her nickname, which was Jestin. Hesitantly, she confessed to have given a copy of the Rubaiyat to a man she had known during the war, and then named the man as Alfred Boxall? Fucking English. Alfred Boxall. For the first time in this case, the police felt as if they'd finally identified this deceased man as this Alfred Boxall, and within days they had traced down his home to Marlborough, New South Wales. The only problem was that Boxall was very much still alive and still possessed the copy of the Rubaiyat that Jestin had given him. The book even bore the nurse's inscription that was completely intact.
What the fuck? But how the fuck does that work?
Once they deemed that the lead was a dead end, the South Australian police questioned Jestin a little bit further and found out something more. Jessa recalled that sometime the previous year, although she could not remember when, she came home to her neighbours reporting that there was a strange unknown man who had called and asked for her. Police then showed her the cast previously made of the unknown man, and Jestin looked, quote, completely taken back, to the point of giving the appearance she was about to faint, end quote. Her body language said that she recognised the man, yet verbally she denied having ever known him. Pause for effect. I know.
My eyes are literally watering. This is what happens when I don't know what's going on. My brain can't fucking handle it. It leaks. My brain leaks when I can't understand. There's actual tears in my eyes. I'm not crying. I'm just it's every time I listen to something that I don't know or that scares me, I start.
See, when I watch horror movies, I cry.
But I'm not crying. I'm not.
Oh no, I very obviously cry.
I'm not crying. My eyes will just water, and I'll get chills all over. So yeah. This is just what's happening.
Again, do you see why I wanted to do this case so badly?
But why the inscription though?
I know.
Okay.
Again, there's theories.
Okay.
Going back to the copy of the Rubaiyat the police had in their possession, when the book was placed under ultraviolet light, 5 lines of jumbled letters could be seen with the second line crossed out. The first 3 were set apart from the last 2 lines with the use of 2 straight lines with an X written over them. Thank you for your input.
I hope people can hear that.
They definitely will be able to with this mic. Thank you.
My cat's just screaming. Just ignore him.
It appeared to be some sort of code. Breaking a code from only a small amount of text is proven to be difficult, but the police still attempted to crack it. They ended up sending the message to the Naval Intelligence, home to Australia's top cipher experts, and even allowed the message to be published in the press. A lot of amateur attempts were submitted, all seeming to be pretty much worthless. And just while writing this yesterday, I just had this image pop through my mind, and imagine this little kid being oh my god, I'm gonna solve this case, just for a police officer to be it's fucking useless.
It's worthless.
How dare you
are nothing.
Ruin this little kid's dream. Just imagine that.
God.
And the Navy sent out a message concluding that the code appeared to be unbreakable. From the manner in which the lines had been represented as being set out in the original, it is evident that the end of each line indicates a break in sense. Quote, there is an insufficient number of letters for definite conclusions to be based on analysis. Jesus Christ. But the indications, together with the acceptance of the above breaks in sense, indicate, insofar can be seen, that the letters do not constitute any kind of simple cipher or code. The frequency of the occurrence of letters, whilst inconclusive, corresponds more favourably with the table of frequencies of initial letters of words in English rather than any other table. Accordingly, a reasonable explanation would be that the lines are the initial letters of words of a verse of poetry or such like. End quote. After this, the mystery of the Somerton Man remained uncracked. The code to this day still had yet to be deciphered, and the identity of the man also has yet to be revealed. Jeston ended up dying back in about the 2010s.
No.
Until the day she died, never revealed why she appeared to be so close
No!
to fainting when confronted with the dead man's cast.
That's like our only hope.
Yep.
Oh.
You're really tearing up. Are you okay?
I'm real bad.
When the South Australian coroner published the final results of the investigation, it concluded, quote, I am unable to say who the deceased is. I am unable to say how he dies or what the cause of death was.
They still don't have a cause of death?
Nope.
Fuck.
They have suspicions, but they don't have any hard evidence to go off of it.
I hate that.
If a poison, like one of those poisons was used, those poisons go away almost completely straight after death. So there is no evidence.
Wow.
There is literally nothing to go off of. Over the past 20 or so years, the case started gaining more traction and more amateurs tried to probe at the loose ends of the case left by police. Some of them solved one or two minor mysteries, but inevitably often created new questions meanwhile. Only 2 individuals so far have made any particular progress on the case. A retired Australian police officer, Gary Feltis, and Professor Derek Abbott of the University of Adelaide. Actually, I think we might be able to fit this all in one episode.
Cool.
I think it'll be under an hour.
Because we've got no banter, because I'm just fucking stumped.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
I fucking love this, guys.
I couldn't research this case, though. I'd get insane.
Dude, I enjoyed it so much. I literally stayed up till 2 o'clock.
That's why you
this
said
morning.
She messaged me in all caps and goes, I finished the case. And I was like, dude,
Go to sleep.
it's 2 a.m. What?
I had to finish it. Plus, by the time, when I was ready to go to sleep at 1 o'clock, I had 2 paragraphs left to do, and I was like, you know what, I might as well just smash it.
Ugh.
Because I still had to drive up here, so
Yeah.
I just did it. It's well known that the man's remains It's well known that the man remains unidentified, but was in one way or another connected to Jeston. And even if he wasn't, the nurse's shocked response to the body cast was very telling, to say the least. Questions were raised such as, might the solution be found in her activities during World War II? Did she regularly give copies of the Rubaiyat to other male friends? And if so, might the Somerton Man be a former boyfriend, thus explaining why she didn't want to confess whilst being in a relationship with another man? Because while this was happening, she was living with the man who would go on to be her husband.
Oh, scandal.
Yes. Professor Abbott research definitely supported such questions and was able to trace Jeston enough to discover that she had a son. When comparing photos of Jeston's son to the Somerton Man, there were a lot of similarities.
Fuck, I want genetic testing. My god.
The Somerton Man, during his autopsy, was described to have very well-built calf muscles and oddly shaped toes that indicated that he either wore heels or was a dancer. And upon further investigation, it was found that the son of Jeston went on to live to be a successful ballet dancer.
Oh my god. I mean, I don't know how much I...
This raised the question of whether the unidentified man was in fact the boy's father and if he killed himself when he could not see his child.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's what happened, but I feel like the son thing is a thing.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Okay.
There's no way they can test that.
The podcast that I listened to that initially brought my attention to this case, I won't be able to tell you exactly quote for quote what they said, but there's something about the ear shape of the Somerton Man. Like,
Mm.
the upper part of
Yeah.
his ear is, like, apparently, like, or, like, it might be the other way around, but it's, like, larger, while in most people it's smaller. And that's the same with the sun. So,
That is
and it's
such a
very
specific
uncommon
thing.
Like,
No,
very
that's-
uncommon.
That has to be it.
Yeah. So, could this be a result of an affair? Who knows? Some argue that this theory is implausible due to the nature of the deceased man's death. How credible is it that someone would go to as far as to get their hands on to one of two very extremely rare drugs over something more readily available, like a gun or something?
I think that she has something to do with it, though.
Though both digitalis and strafafin can be found at the chemist.
What?
They can be found at the chemist.
What? What the fuck do you mean they can be found at the chemist?
They are not found in anything that can be casually bought over the counter. But both poisons are used as muscle relaxants to treat heart diseases.
Why?
The exotic death of the Somerton Man suggests that, to some, that he was possibly a spy.
Or he had like a heart condition and he just had that medication and he
but
just
that
decided
would show up in the autopsy, would it not?
Oh, I hate this.
Alfred Bollocks had worked in intelligence during his time serving the war. This was the guy who police thought the Somerton Man was. And the Somerton Man did die at the same time of the Cold War, a few hundred kilometers out. A few hundred kilometers outside of Adelaide was one of the most top secret bases in the world, where it is suspected by some that this was where the poison was administered to him via tobacco, and this would explain why he had a different brand of tobacco, like cigarettes, inside of.
Yeah, and that's why he died mid-smoke. Oh. Fuck, this is juicy.
Though these theories are far-fetched, there are two main theories that Tamam should that point towards this case being suicide. The first is that the copy of the rubaiyat handed to the police back in 1949 is apparently impossible to track down. A near-identical version was found published by a New Zealand bookstore chain by the name of Whitcomb and Tombs. The near-identical version shared the same book cover, only its printer was in a more squarer font. Abbott discovered that there was another man identified as George Marshall found in Australia after the war with a copy of the rubaiyat close to his person when he died. Very similar to our Somerton Man. Marshall was a Jewish immigrant from Singapore, and he had held possession of the 7th edition of the rubaiyat. At first glance, his death looks more like a coincidence, and the publisher who published the 7th edition, Methuen, I think it's called, and libraries located all around the world were inquired, and it suggested that there was never more than 5 editions of Methuen's rubaiyat.
What?
So how the fuck is there a 7th?
That's not a thing. What the fuck?
Making Marshall's book as non-existent as the Somerton Man's book was. Might the books not have been at all, but rather some sort of disguised spy gear to identify them.
Oh my fucking god. What?
This brings us to the final mystery. When going through the police file for the case, Gary Feltus noticed that there was a statement that had been neglected and almost pushed aside. A man gave a statement back in 1959 that on the day the Somerton Man was presumed to have died on, the man saw another man carrying another on his shoulder near the water's edge. Although he could not describe the man at the time, the man thought it was someone carrying their drunken friend. Sorry, that pause was not intended. I just brain farted. Might he not have been known as the unknown man at all? Might the body have been found the next morning have been the one on the stranger's shoulder? And if so, might it's conceivably... What the fuck did I write? So this was all at like 2, like this part was at 2 o'clock in the morning. I was delirious.
Mm-hmm.
And if so, might this conceivably suggest that this really was a case involving spies and a murder? And that's all my research.
It has to be a government thing because there's no way all of this shit is like, this is so much. Like, this is so in-depth.
Do you want another
has
conspiracy
to be
that I don't
government.
have written here?
Yeah.
I completely forgot to write this part down because it wasn't in the source that I got a lot of this information was, but it was in that podcast I've been mentioning. I will try and find the name of the podcast and the episode, and I will put it in the episode description for you guys because it is very interesting and I highly suggest it. I think the podcast is called Not Today. Really interesting, highly suggest. But it is also theorized that the man had an affair and was a spy. Sorry, let me collect my thoughts.
It's already very juicy.
Yeah, I know. But it's kind of theorized that he went off to war, like, being a spy. And, like, originally he'd fallen in love with this girl, like, Jestin. And they had a baby together. Like, they had, like, either a one-night stand, but he fell in love with her. And when he came back from the war to confess her, like, his love and to, like, marry the woman who bears his child, he finds out that she's with another man.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's theorized that he killed himself out of grief and, like, Romeo and Juliet.
Well, I was going to say something along the lines of maybe not because he couldn't see his child, but maybe because she was with someone else.
Yeah. So, I personally reckon that he was a spy.
There's no way he's not, quite honestly.
Like,
the fact that that book wasn't even in print, and then the fact that there was the inscription, but that wasn't...
if he'd gone to the war, there would be, like, his thumbprints impressions somewhere in the database.
Yes, there would.
But there was nothing.
The only reason that he would be completely off the grid is if they...
had actively tried to remove him from it.
Yes.
So, whether he knew something and went to tell his lover, I love you, like, one last time, and found out that she was not with another man, and that drew him over the edge. And whether he was being hunted because he knew information he wasn't meant to know, or... There are endless theories.
100% somebody knows.
100%.
There's no fucking way that
one
somebody
person who
doesn't
probably
know.
does is now dead.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Yeah.
But, like, somebody knows something. Because there's no way that those things all just... there is somebody who helped in making him not exist.
CIA, Chinese, and, like...
Yeah, Chinese and...
If you guys don't understand that, go back to last week's episode.
Oh my god.
I'm a fucking dumbass and Are you looking at my toes? Please don't look at my toes. Thank you. But yeah, that's the case of the Somerton Man. And as I said before, he still remains unidentified. No one knows his name, who he is. And the case remains unsolved.
That's insane.
No cause of death, no name, nothing.
That's crazy.
We don't even know for sure. Like, it's very possible that the suitcase did belong to him because it had the exact same type of orange thread in the suitcase that he had sewn his pocket with. But whether or not, like, that actually belonged to him or not, that's unknown. Yeah.
That's so...
It's a fascinating case.
I hate that so much.
So much. Cases like this actually, like, get me giddy. Because they fascinate me so much.
I hate them.
I just love the thinking side of it. That's why I like conspiracy theories, because you sit there and you're like, is that actually possible? Is that plausible? And if so, what evidence supports that?
Ooh.
I love the analytical
so many
side of it.
questions now.
Yeah. But I like
I'm
that.
gonna sleep after this, man.
I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna sleep. I'm gonna message you at 5 a.m. and I'm gonna be like, what about this? What do you think about this?
Oh, God.
Oh.
But yeah. Dude, that's under an hour.
Not even mine was like that, and I thought mine was gonna be like 40 minutes.
This was literally over 3,000 words long.
Yeah.
I'm very surprised.
It's because there was no banter. Because we always
No.
fill it up with banter, but there was no. I had nothing to say.
Like, seriously.
Like, there was nothing to say.
Last week's episode was over an hour long, but that's because it was filled with us just shit talking that asshole.
Understandably, you guys will
Yeah.
know if you listen to that episode.
And if you don't, shame on you.
Damn.
Fake fan.
Shit.
Yeah.
I had nothing to say.
You just ruined your makeup.
Oh, my eyes are watering that entire time. Every time there's something weird, like every time I'm listening to something weird or like something that I don't know, my eyes water.
Right.
It's a very bizarre thing.
I do it when I'm scared.
It's happened my entire life. If there's something that I don't know, it's literally when I don't know something.
Yeah.
Because, fun fact, also when I'm singing to a song that I don't know, my eyes will water.
Really?
Yeah. Or if I'm listening to a spooky case that, like, like if I'm listening to a paranormal episode, because, like, I don't know about...
Oh, yeah, the paranormal gets me crying too.
But it's not me crying, it's just my eyes start to water, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. And then, like, if there's, like, mysteries, conspiracy theories... like, literally, if I'm singing the words to a song that I don't know well yet, my eyes will start to water.
That is
Every
so
time my
weird.
brain doesn't know something, my eyes start to water.
It's just frustration cries.
I have no idea. Like, I don't control it at all. And I don't
very
feel
bizarre.
anything. Like, I'm not sad, I'm not angry, I'm
Emotionless
not...
bitch.
I don't feel anything. No, it's very bizarre.
That is very weird.
I'm a psychological study in itself.
Fuck.
just fuck.
No, screw like neurologists like studying these psychopaths and like these
Like,
sociopaths.
study
Just
me.
take out your brain. That'll be a joyride and a half.
It's interesting. I don't know. I have so many weird...
Things like that.
Yeah.
Every time my brain doesn't know something, my eyes water.
That is very weird.
Yeah. Or like even when I'm trying to work something out. So say like I'm trying to figure something out in my head, my eyes will start to water. Like if I can't figure it out, my eyes will start to water.
That is so weird.
I don't know what it is.
Are you okay?
No! Did you expect a positive reaction to that question?
No, I wasn't, honestly.
Ugh.
Oh, God. Is there anything else we want to talk about? Because this is a very... I was expecting this to be a lot longer. I was expecting this to be in 2 parts.
I don't actually know. The first episode we recorded today, because we record all of our episodes at a time, I talked about...
The girl who was reported missing like a week ago.
Yeah.
This will be more than a week ago for you guys, but for us it's still a week ago.
This will be like a month ago now.
Even over that, because this is...
Gabby
Okay.
Gabby Petito, I really hope that there's something that's come out about that. I really hope that her family's had some closure.
Yeah.
I hope
Especially by the time this episode is released. I hope they get something.
I hope that they keep searching the national park and they find anything. I just hope her family has some sort of closure by when this episode is uploaded. Obviously when
I hope they catch that asshole.
Yeah. He's not missing. He's hiding.
He's fucking hiding, pussy bitch.
This, at the time of us recording this, that's the current situation. I really hope that something has come up.
By the next time we record, we might have more on the situation, and we will try
maybe an
to
update on the Instagram as well. Like, say that we're following it.
I'll leave that to you because I didn't even know about this until you mentioned it today.
I'll follow it. Like, if there's an update, I'll post the update as well.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so.
Normally we banter a lot, but after this case,
I just
we're very
had
silent.
nothing to say. I don't know. I have no theories that weren't, like, presented, really.
Yeah.
I so wish that there could have been something to do with, like, something with his genetics, like, something found with his genetics. Because I feel like a lot of it could be solved with his genetics.
Yeah. But at the same time, this was all done in like the 1940s, 1950s.
Well, that's the thing. Clearly, if there was something that could have been done with genetics,
they would have done it. The fact that they even went
it.
as far as to do like fingerprint comparisons.
Oh, yeah, they did good, but
like,
it's just...
See what I mean? They actually fucking tried.
Yeah, I assume that if there was something that could have been done with that, then they would have done it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or maybe, because like, going off the spy thing again, so you know how in fucking Captain America, the movie, how when Captain America... What? Steve? I got confused whether that was the actor's name or not, sorry. When Steve Rogers captures that Nazi soldier and he bites the thing under his thumb and that kills him, like, because he's got like a poison tablet under his thumbnail. What if he had been compromised as a spy and the only way to get out of it was
to kill...
suicide, like a Nazi
and
soldier?
And they would have access to those poisons. Of course they would.
Yeah.
Because then it goes from your system and nobody would know who the fuck you are because it's not traceable.
Yep.
Ah!
And then if you do have any loved ones or relatives who might know something, you're not traceable. They can't be found. Your family isn't in danger.
No. Wow.
Yeah. So there's so many theories.
Also,
if that family is aware of it all, they would know the risks of coming out and being like, yep, that's my son.
They wouldn't do it.
So they wouldn't.
But I think that usually if you're a spy, you don't
have
any ties.
Yeah.
You either don't have ties whatsoever, or there's nothing that can tie, like there's nothing that can tie you back to them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Also, this is not related whatsoever to the case.
Okay.
But my auntie's cat's name is Steve.
Thank you for that, Rachel. Thank you so much.
Not just their cat though, but like her kitten, and it's really, really funny because he's like.
I fucking love it when people give like the animals very human names.
Yeah, no, like her kitten his name is Steve. So we just go to her house and like there's this little kitten running around and we're like, "Hi, Steve!" Like it's so funny.
Like at least with like all of our cats between the two of us, we have 7 cats between the two of us. Oh my god. But like mine are Luna and Willow, and yours are Spano and Jax and Prowley and...
I've already fucked up my cat's name. Jax.
Is it not?
Jazz.
Fuck.
We named them all when we were kids, and half of them are named after Transformers.
See, I love the name Luna, and for a while, like early teenage years, I wanted like my firstborn daughter to be called
It's
Luna.
such a pretty name.
It is a pretty name until I gave it to my fucking cat.
I love that. Now it would just be weird if you gave it to your
Yeah,
daughter.
exactly. So no, I can't. But it's okay.
Also, Willow.
I've got a better name now. Mum gave.
That's such
Willow's
a pretty name though.
Yeah.
But now, if I name my daughter Willow, it's gonna be after your cat.
I'm sorry.
I don't mind. I would still probably do it.
The names are actually very suiting for our cats. Luna's nickname is Loopy Luna or Lunatic. She goes fucking bunter. Oh my god, she's the fattest fucking cat. Have you ever seen a fat cat run, like sprint around the house? She does that like clockwork every night about 7 o'clock after dinner. Fucking laps. No idea how she's so fat, but fucking pelts those laps. And she's an arsehole. She's actually an arsehole. Willow would just be sitting there on the couch just enjoying her life, and then Luna will come up and smack her across the face and then run off. And it's like, that was uncalled for one, and second of all, you're just a bitch. And I happened to name her. So, thanks for being a fucking arsehole.
I love that.
Also, she doesn't like cuddles. I try to pick her up, like, she'll come up to me and be like, cuddles, and I'll pick her up to give her cuddles. She's like, no, fuck off.
Arnie's like that. Arnie is my rescue cat, and then the other 4 cats I have are from like the same litter.
Yeah, but that's understandable. Arnie's a rescue cat.
But he's
Luna's
doing
the bitch.
so well now, though.
He is.
He's doing so well. He like sleeps on like my pillow now.
He really
with
stinky
me.
though.
Oh my god, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with his insides, but I feed him normal cat food, and none of my other cats smell that bad. He's healthy, don't worry. Like he's been to the vet and he's fine.
He's a bit chunky, but we still love him.
Yeah, but even when he went on a diet, his poops smell so
Oh my
bad.
God. I remember
So
one time
bad.
when I was in there and I went in there and to get something and I had to evacuate the room and I went, Rachel, you have to sort that out.
I
It
will
was
literally sort it out
so
immediately and
bad.
you can still smell it throughout the entire house. It's
so bad.
insane.
And he, like...
It smells like he's decomposing
That's
on the
room
inside.
you sleep in as well.
Like-
I don't know how you sleep in there.
By the way, the only reason I have a litter tray in my room is because I can't have him in the rest of the house. So he has like a cat run connected to my bedroom. Like my mum and I literally cut a like hole out of the flat screen in my window so that we could attach like a cat run to the outside of the house so that he could have like an outside area as well. So that, because all my other cats are brothers, so they all get along, but he's my rescue, and when I moved in with my mum, I brought him with me.
He gets along with Prowley, but...
Yeah, because I had them living together for a while, so they're fine. Pretty much all of the cats are fine with him, except for Spano and Indy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other two are fine. So
But it's so sad because, like, Arnie will see them, or, like, see any cat, and will just run and hide, and it breaks my heart.
you think it's bad with the cats? You should see when he sees a human child.
Really?
He's terrified of
Well,
children.
that makes... Oh, maybe he had some sort of, like, trauma that
I mean,
involved
his
children?
previous owners threw him into a ceiling fan. It took months to be able to just turn on a fan around him. But we did it. We're doing so well. He's so good now. Like, he's goes out of his comfort zone. The other cats, when they end up going outside, he comes in and he roams the entire house now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, last time we were recording, I was in this room, the spare room.
Yeah, he usually comes into
And,
these two rooms.
Yeah, he came in here. And
Yeah,
was
but he
there
goes
with
into the
me.
kitchen now too sometimes. If I'm out there cooking. He'll
Yeah.
sit in the doorway with me. Yeah.
I'm so
doing
proud
well.
of him. He's such a good boy.
Yeah.
Anyway, we should probably wrap up this episode. Thank you guys for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you want more episodes like this that are like more conspiracy based, where like you don't get to find out the ending, because I like doing the research on
Unsolved
them.
cases.
Please tell us, email us or tell us on Instagram.
Didn't want more conspiracy theories when I did this.
Wait, they did or didn't?
They didn't. When I did the poll, they didn't want any more conspiracy theories. But I feel like unsolved cases are something that we should do more of.
Yeah. I feel
You
like
could
it's
do that.
mainly with the Macbeth. That was a bit out of line for what we advertised on
That was
this.
so fun though.
It was very fun.
Yeah, but we're true crime and conspiracy. But unsolved cases we should do more of because you
feel
should
like,
do more of.
Yeah, I'll do
I
more
can't fuck with
research
them.
on... I'll do more unsolved cases because I feel like they're more interesting for our audience.
Mm-hmm.
Because Macbeth and murder have nothing to do with each other.
There's some unsolved cases in the books that I've got.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome. Still one. Thank you for listening to us. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Terra Australis Podcast and on Twitter at Australis Terra. Got it that time. If you have any of your own terror tales, any stories you want us to cover, or any of your own little hauntings or like hometown murders, please send us...
Oh my god, I would love to do a hometown murder series of terror tales.
Yes. Please email them to us at terraaustralispodcast@gmail.com and follow us on any of the streaming platforms that you are currently listening to us to. That really helps support us, so please do that. Be sure to like and follow. And if you guys want, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Probably Terra Australis
We're going to be doing
Podcast or something like that.
podcast visuals there. So just the podcast episodes, but with the visuals, and it's super funny.
When I figure out the fucking the technicalities behind it. We'll only have one by the time you hear this episode. It was a very funny episode though. I fucking shat myself laughing at that one.
You laughed so much. It was great.
You guys get to see my silent laughter. It's great. Anyway, thank you for joining us. And we hope to catch you on the flip side.
Bye, Terrace.
Bye.